Welcome back everybody, fantastic to see you again. Now today we're going to be making focaccia. Now focaccia is an Italian type of bread and it's loaded with loads of garlic and rosemary in it. What I enjoy about this bread the most is what it's used for. It usually comes out on large platters with cured meat, pickled onions, dips, sun-dried tomatoes, you name it. These Italian style platters. Now the bread with the garlic and the rosemary complement everything on there so well, it really boosts their flavours. Now this is a nice simple recipe for the focaccia. As you can see, there's not many ingredients into it, but it will have loads of flavour, trust me. Please, don't forget, go to YouTube, Batman Chef, and subscribe. And go to Facebook and follow me at Bat Chef. Now we're going to get things started. Oven's preheating to 210 degrees. We're going to go ahead and make our dough. I've got my flour here weighed out ready. I've got 350 ml of warm water for the yeast and a tablespoon of salt going in with the flour. Firstly, we're going to mix our yeast with our 350 ml of warm water. And there we have it, just leave that for a couple of minutes. We've got our flour weighed out and a tablespoon of salt. Now that our yeast water has been sitting there for a little while, now that we're going to add our yeast water to our flour, it will get quite messy and you will need to use your hands at some point to make sure they're nice and clean. Start to pour the mixture in and give it a good mix. While making your dough, if it tends to be quite sticky, even once you've got all the flour mixed into the yeast water, just sprinkle a bit more flour and just keep mixing it through. You're just looking for the consistency where it's still quite soft, but you can still hold it without it sticking to you too much. Before you put your dough back into your bowl, you just want to dust the bottom of it with a little bit of flour and then the top. Now we're going to let it prove. Now that your dough's ready, you want to get a nice clean cloth, run it under some hot water and wring it out. You don't want it dripping wet, but it needs to be sufficiently damp. So therefore, we're just going to cover our bowl with the cloth and keep it in a nice warm place for about 30 minutes. We're going to preheat our oven to 210 degrees. The reason for this is once we've made our dough and we've got it into our tray, ready to go in the oven, we're going to baste the top of it with our garlic and rosemary oil. The high heat will then form a crust on the top of the bread, trapping all the heat inside. We'll turn down the oven and bake it further, and that's when the bread will rise up and give you a nice light, fluffy focaccia. While the dough's proving, let's get straight onto our garlic and rosemary oil. So you've got your cloves of garlic, you just want to crush them. You just want to run your knife through it a couple of times. There we have it, our crushed garlic. Just straight into a small saucepan. And once you've picked a couple of stems of rosemary, once again, just want to chop it up a bit. And just put your rosemary straight into your saucepan with your garlic. Now with a couple of extra bits of rosemary, you've got a little sprig of rosemary. Now I'm using about 200 ml of oil. If you don't want to be using that much, that's fine, but you do need a little bit to be able to coat the top of the focaccia. So we're just going to put in about 50 ml of the oil into the pan at the moment. So just on a nice medium heat, you just want to just slowly start to shallow fry that garlic and rosemary. It will help release all the flavours in there. Now, while this is gently frying at about a medium heat, you should start to smell the garlic and the rosemary come out of there. And it's lovely. Be very careful not to burn it. Just keep stirring it every now and then. Once the garlic starts to go a very light brown colour, just want to slowly add the rest of your oil just to bring down that temperature a little bit. I've turned off my gas on the oil, so that way just the temperature in there is just helping bring out all the flavours in the garlic and the rosemary. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes now for this dough to prove. It's easily doubled in size, exactly what we want. Be very gentle with it. You don't want to knock out all the air. Now with this oil, just in the bottom of your pan. Now it doesn't matter the garlic and rosemary in the bottom, it's just going to add flavour to your bread. So now we're going to gently move this dough from our bowl into our tin. So just very gently, just run that same spatula down the sides of your bowl, just to lift it off. Just gently tip it. Now just gently spread it out so it reaches all the corners. Okay, just like that. Now, with these extra sprigs of rosemary that we hung on to, just little clumps of them, all you just want to do is just poke them into little holes all around your bread. You want to poke them down into your bread, give that distinct focaccia look. Using the same cloth that we used before to prove our dough, I've just run it back under again, hot water, made sure it wasn't dripping wet, and then you just want to cover it again and just let it prove for another about 15 minutes. Okay, it's been another 15 minutes now, let that prove again. Now what we want to do is just brush the top of it with your garlic and rosemary oil. If you've got a pastry brush, that's perfect. If not, you can use a rosemary stick. And you want to make sure there's plenty of oil on top, so it will help create that lovely crust. And there we have it. Now that's going to go into the oven at 210 degrees for only 15 minutes. And then we'll turn it down to 160 degrees to finish cooking the center of it. And there we have it. It's been 15 minutes at 210 degrees. You can just hear that lovely crust. So all we're going to do now is I've just turned the oven down to 160 and brush some more oil on, and then straight back in the oven for another 20 minutes. What's fantastic about focaccia, you don't have to stop at rosemary and garlic. You can adapt it to suit your needs or what you like. If you want to put some dried tomatoes in there, even fresh cherry tomatoes, cut them in half, pop them in where we put the rosemary on the second prove, then you can. They'll cook, they'll break down, it'll be fantastic, juicy, it'll be lovely. You can do different things with it. Alright, it's time to take it out. And would you look at that? Absolutely beautiful. You can hear that crusty top. Oh, it's fantastic, and the smell, beautiful. Now that it's been out for just a minute or two, we'll be able to take it out and put it on our wire rack to cool down. Because we've brushed the bottom of it with the same oil, it would have sealed the bottom just as much as what it's done at the top. Now, you're probably wondering whether or not it's ready to take out at the right time. So you should be able to press into it and feel it spring right back. That tells you that the bread has been cooked enough that it's now no longer a dough, but all the little air bubbles that are trapped in there act like a spring. So therefore, if there's any dough left in there, when you push down on it, just gently, it won't spring back as quickly. Now I'll let it cool down just for a few more minutes. It is still a little bit warm, but we can cut into it now. And there we have it, our focaccia. With the same garlic and rosemary oil, you can brush on your slices of focaccia and just toast them gently into a frying pan. You get lovely crispy focaccia. But the flavour in that is beautiful. Don't forget guys, go to YouTube, Batman Chef, and subscribe. It's free to do so. And follow me on Facebook, Bat Chef. Like, share and comment below of what you thought of my focaccia. I'll see you guys next time.